say about 20,000 Palestinian children and adults needing medical care are hoping to leave the devastated territory via the crossing. In other news, Bad Bunny has made Grammy Awards history, taking home a win for Album of the Year for Debí Tirar Más Fotos. It's the first time a Spanish-language album has taken home the top prize. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News. AP correspondent Ed Donahue reports IndyCar is coming to Washington, D.C.
President Trump announced an IndyCar race through Washington, D.C. this summer. It's part of America's 250th birthday celebration. The race is scheduled for August 23rd. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says there won't be gridlock on D.C. streets that day.
But to think 190 miles an hour down Pennsylvania Avenue, this is going to be wild.
The race route will include the National Mall. Roger Penske is owner of IndyCar.
And we're excited. The areas for people to see. Most of the grounds will be free.
President Trump is relishing the prospect of cars roaring past the White House.
It's going to be so exciting, and I love the race. I don't have a lot of time to watch it, but I love the racing.
The president is urging organizers to pick the best race route through Washington streets. Ed Donahue, Washington.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty areas of freezing rain here early today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 17. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, high of 26 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 26. Thursday, partial sunshine, high of 31. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 23.
Here's a tale of Linda trying to lose weight, but the med prices she found were all over the place.
Hidden fees and markups made her jaw drop low. Then she found Good RX. Now she's in the know.
GLP-1 subscriptions FDA approved.
With clear upfront pricing.
And same-day pickup.
That's Good RX, the no-nonsense way. Save time and money on prescriptions.
Get to goodrx.com/weight loss. GoodRx is not insurance.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives. Welcome to the February 2nd. Yes, happy February. In case you didn't have anybody say that to you yesterday, 2026 edition of Choose Views. 773-763-9278 is our number. Find my show on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, and, of course, YouTube. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Excuse me. Follow me on all the socials, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Blue Sky, Threads, Substack, and Spoutable. And as I've been saying since the beginning of the year, watch your algorithm on X right now. It is, watch what you get. Watch the notifications. Watch the timing of the feeds that you get. Just pay attention to it, and don't dwell on some of the garbage that's out there, because there is a lot that's populating in X. So just as an FYI, catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. There you can get Choose Views, featured interviews, Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive, the great Patty Vasquez driving you home, and It's the Democracy, Stupid, with Edwin Eisendrath, Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And as we say every single day, make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, our digital platform. And I'm telling you, there's a lot of good stuff there. And I can just tell you that one of the things that's great about Heartland Signal is you're going to get a little bit of everything. It will be local. It'll be Midwest. It'll be national. But that's the place to go to grab some of the great articles that we're putting out. One of the ones that really popped up for me is Representative Joaquin Castro out of Texas talking to CNN about Liam Ramos. You guys will want to check that clip out. Another one that stands out is the conversation around the arrests regarding journalists. And, so check that one out as well. But good stuff there over at heartlandsignal.com for you guys to delve into and share. That's the big word, is to share. On today's show, we will be talking with Pamela Pugh, who is one of the representatives in the state of Michigan. She'll be with us in the 6:30 hour. Public health scientist and politician, and also the current president of the Michigan State Board of Education. So looking forward to chatting with her about what's happening in Michigan politics. And then in the 7 o'clock hour, we have an interview that I did with Nikita Patel, who is the president CEO of the Online News Association. And she'll, I wish I were talking to her again about the events over the weekend and the conversation over the weekend around journalists. And then at 7:30, Mike Nellis, political strategist, will be with us. So I know he and I are going to lean into a few things at that point. So hang loose for our great guest that we have this morning. And I can't go without saying this. I know a lot of people get their undies in a bundle over it, but too bad. Go for a walk or something. Get them unbundled. But happy Black History Month. Okay? Happy Black History Month. Why do I say that? Because it is. February has been that month for a long time. There's people who go back and forth from a different variety of communities that, have their opinions and observations about Black history. This current administration sucks in that space. We know it. We see the things that they're doing, that they've done to take down recognitions and memories of great Black folks in this country. From scientists to mathematicians to military leaders and all the rest. But the one thing that you can't get away from is Black history is American history. It just is. I say this proudly and clearly unapologetically. There's not much that's not touched in this country in terms of the successes and the progresses of this country that doesn't run down the street of a Black person or a Black family or Black communities. And throughout the course of this month, I'll be talking about different things that have happened and great things that you may not know about that have happened from Black scientists, Black educators, Black leaders, and all the rest. But happy Black History Month to the United States of America, not just to Black folks. And that's the thing that I think is really cool about Black History Month being celebrated. Some may have a different observation, and that's fair. But I think it recognizes who the country really kind of became. When you think about the only group in this country that was brought from another land and enslaved. Now, I'm not talking about indentured servitude. I'm not talking about biases toward other communities because of their ethnicity. I'm talking about a community that was, by the government's decision, enslaved. There's one community that exists in this country right now that was done to. You can't make any comparisons. I know people like to say that they're, what about the Irish? What about the Italians? What about, and the list goes on. And candidly, even you can't make a comparison. I'll stop there. Some people will try, but there isn't any evidence in 400 plus years that there hasn't ever been another community that was taken from another continent and brought to this one and enslaved. That's not taking away anybody else's plight. I'll never do that, including the Native American brothers and sisters that are here. I'll never take away from anybody's other plight and struggle. Or our Mexican brothers and sisters whose land was appropriated. There was only one community. And so when I look at the history of Black African-American folk in this country, I look at it with a lot of pride And I don't back down when we celebrate Black History Month in the month of February. It's the shortest month. We've all made jokes about it, and we have our moments with it. It's the shortest month of the year that celebrates Black history, but you know, I celebrate it every single day. This is the one thing that I say. I celebrate Black history every day by getting up and going out and doing something to make this country better. That's the thing that I talk about a lot. People used to say to me years ago, Richard, why do you work on Dr. King's birthday? Because part of what Dr. King stood for was equity and balance and providing a sense of opportunity for so many people. And I took it as a badge of honor to go to work on his birthday, that was being celebrated as a holiday, because it said to me that I remember and recognize what he was fighting for. So I'll go to work on that day. That was sort of my way of celebrating the holiday, is to be able to go to work. Black history has a similar resonance for me. I celebrate it every day in one way or another, so that I don't have to wait for a month of a year to celebrate my ethnicity and its greatness and its contribution to this country. And so even though we have an administration, and I say an administration, not just a president, because if the administration and the cabinet didn't agree with him, they'd say, you know what, we can't do that. Because and this is the thing that cracks me up, is that I see black folks who, the 2 or 3 black people that work in this administration, if you want to even call it that to our knowledge haven't pushed back on this administration's tearing down of Black history. Okay? And this is why Black history is an everyday thing for me, because during Black History Month, the things that have been done to tear down Black history in this country since Donald Trump has come back to office again, they didn't happen just during Black History Month. They've happened over the course of this past year and a week that he's been in office. So that's why I celebrate Black history, or one of the reasons why I celebrate Black history every single day of the year. So Tom Joyner, radio host, known as the Fly Jock. He did a show in Chicago and did a show in Dallas. He would fly back and forth daily for years. And one of the things that he would do on his show is little moments in Black history, because there were things that people didn't know about that were invented by a Black person. But for those who are maybe more modern, things that you know about Black history, or want to celebrate something, or want to be reminded of how important, and a story that never got told, about the impact of Black brilliance and genius in this country, bless you, is rewind and watch the movie Hidden Figures. Just watch that one again. If you haven't seen it at all, you should see that movie, because it talks about the excellence of these women and what they did for our space program and what they did for science more broadly. But it also speaks to what the country was doing then to take away from the excellence of those same people that I just spoke of. And it's a reminder of, as this country has become great and has been striving to be great and make itself work hard to improve its blind spots and its ills and the much of the oppression that it's done, there have always been these bright spots of people who have forged ahead. And ironically, they happen to be people that look like me. And in the process of that, we've worked to pull people along the way. So I'm very proud to be the person that I am as a Black American, that Black American, Afro-American, whatever, because at the end of the day, Black history is American history. So there you go, guys. Let's take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. You are listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago, WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130 and Iron Workers Local 63.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew.
That's right. Welcome back, guys, to the show. We appreciate you being with us. 773-763-9278 is the number. Give us a holler this morning if you get a chance. We'll try to get you squeezed in. And if you don't mind holding a little bit, we'll get your call in that way as well. But since it is Monday and we are out of our first break, I want to hit you guys with a couple of Chew's Views news items on what's happening in and around our good country on this February 2nd, 2026. Co-working is back with a twist. Co-working spaces have reemerged as one of the fastest growing segments of the office market. But some things have changed since the industry's pre-pandemic boom. While smaller firms and entrepreneurs drove growth then, today's demand is fueled by large corporations, including companies like Pfizer and Amazon. 2018, WeWork owned most of the facilities. Now, smaller operators are doing the same. According to the data from firm Yardi, co-working space in the United States is down considerably from the 2019 peak. The U.S. enters a partial shutdown. We saw what happened at the end of last week, Friday, with the Senate and the spending bill. The Senate passed a $1.2 trillion bipartisan package that would fund several federal agencies through September. The deal still requires approval from the House of Representatives, which is scheduled to convene today. So we'll see where that goes. What affordability, quote, really means in 2026. It's become a political buzzword and a catch-all term. But what does it mean to average Americans? A new New York Times Siena poll boils it down. The American dream now feels more like a fantasy than an attainable goal, with most Americans now believing it's more difficult, if not nearly impossible, to get ahead. The sentiment is most acute among younger workers. Gen Z lags other generations, on the AI adoption. That's interesting. Gen Z is the most digitally native generation in today's labor market, yet their recent struggles to establish themselves at work may be souring some of them on AI's promise. According to the LinkedIn survey, this shows that the youngest members of the workforce aren't as receptive to the technology as their parents and grandparents. That is really, when I read this, I was really surprised at that one because of the assumptions we make about younger generations being more technology accepting. Gen Z is the least likely generation to believe AI will help them grow their careers or make them more efficient at work compared to their older colleagues. Wow. And last but not least, TSA is to expand faster screening and enforce real ID rules. The Transportation Security Administration is expanding the pre-check touchless ID program, which uses facial recognition to verify members' identity without a physical form of identification, rolling out in over 65 airports this spring, with particular focuses on the 2020 World Cup host cities. The volunteer program uses dedicated lanes for faster screening. So there you go. And then last but not least on that, the travelers without real ID or acceptable alternatives face a $45 fee. Ooh. As I say, before holidays and big weekends, you guys, have your stuff together when you get ready to go. So not only make sure your car, if you're doing a road trip, make sure your car's got gas and you're taking it in for servicing, but also make sure you've got your proper ID with you when you travel. All right, guys, we got a clip that I want you to hear. as it relates to what happened over the weekend around our good friend, I will say good friend, Don Lemon.
I know Don Lemon. My husband created CNN, and I will fight for their right to speak, which is guaranteed in our Constitution. They arrested the wrong Don. Don Lemon is a professional journalist. He and his producer were doing their job. Nothing more, nothing less. And he's been arrested. And they'll make up all kinds of defamatory things to say about him. That's what they're doing. This is how autocrats act. We can't fall for it. We have to speak up. When a red line is crossed like this, we cannot be silent.
So, obviously, that was Jane Fonda, by the way, at a vote in or out teens event. I like to try to, as best I can, give the shout out to the clips and where they come from. So there's a lot of pieces to this situation with Don Lemon and other journalists. And I sometimes I try to be receptive to the listener who might not like the way I put certain things. And I get that that's just part of the deal. But they arrested Don Lemon from what people are saying, he shouldn't have been in this church and he was part of the conspiracy and all this other garbage. Okay, so prove it in court. You don't get to prove it in the court of opinion on this. This is one of those things that's going to more than likely go to court unless they decide to drop the case. So prove it in court. And I think that's what's going to happen here. It's going to end up being a thing that goes to trial and, evidence, and we'll see how it plays itself out. So they're going to tie up John's life and try to do all those things. But I'm going to just point out a couple things about this that's obvious. And during the course of this Black History Month, you may see me present a lot of things from a very visibly black perspective. So here we go. There were 3 other journalists that were arrested and or detained, and they all are African American. That can't be skipped over. Don's the big name. We know that. He's the name that's a global name and has been for years in terms of news, broadcasting, and journalism. But they arrested 3 other black journalists. And just, we sometimes we sort of tiptoe around these things. That's a bunch of garbage. We know why they were arrested. They were arrested not because of the fact that they, did something visibly wrong that other journalists in the process of being a journalist, like Jane Fonda said, have done. White journalists. They arrested 3 other black journalists. You don't get lucky that often. Here's the thing: the field of journalists is much bigger than that. But the journalists that have been arrested primarily in this moment are black. So make of it what you will. But I dare say that that's a bunch of garbage. And I'm going to add to that something that you guys may not remember. And I'm going to give you a name as it relates to this whole thing about someone going into a church and interrupting their the services, which I'm not. Listen, I'm not down with that unless there's something that there's someone in that church that is doing to cause harm to people. Okay, that's where I would draw an exception. But what's interesting? I'll drop a name on you that you guys should know. Valentina Gomez. She disrupted she's a stone cold MAGA. Trump had up Trump's behind like nobody's business. She disrupted a LGBTQ friendly church service she wasn't there reporting. She went in with vile, disgusting, and there's audio tape of it. Vile, disgusting outrage. And there were no arrests. There were no federal charges. And she was a failed candidate for Congress. Yeah. But she's got the right, costume, right persuasion, She didn't get arrested. So help me understand, if it's going into a church, let's just say going into a church as a journalist is the wrong thing to do during service. So we're going to say that, which is not what the law says, but that's Richard's interpretation for the point of making a point. Okay, then this is the path we go down. But they didn't. That's not the rules. So as Eric Grant often asks, what are the rules, y'all? What are the rules? Don Lemon went in reporting. Doesn't matter if he knew before or not. What was he supposed to do? Call the church and say, hey, by the way, there's some protesters coming in? That's not his job. If he knew, and what he knew was, that's, we go down that path. I'm not even trying to have that conversation necessarily. I want to have the conversation as to why the Trump administration, why the federal, the federal operating arm did not go after Valentina Gomez. So I'm putting this out there for you guys to have. When you're talking with someone or you see something on social media or in any venue in your life, and they're talking about, oh, Don Lemon, blah, 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 just ask them, do you know who Valentina Gomez is? That's all you got to do. Do you know who Valentina Gomez is? Just ask them that question. Probably they won't know. But if they do, then ask them, why is she not sitting in a jail cell? Because she was the tip of the spear of this, going into a church with this just vile outrage. And here's the thing. It's not something that somebody said that they heard about. There's actually, there's video recording. And when the church, here's the thing, guys. This is what's crazy. When the members of the church, leaders of the church, asked her to leave, she did not leave. She stood there, stood her quote-unquote ground, and kept yelling and screaming and saying nasty stuff. Yes, she did. It's on video, y'all. It ain't coming out of Richard Chu's brain because I just got nothing else to talk about. Yes, she did. Her white privilege or her non-black denigration did not gave her cover. That is what happened. So, just so you know. All right, before we go to this break, something I'll be reading to you guys over the next few weeks for my listeners, really anywhere in the country, but if you're in North Carolina, don't miss Building Bridges, a fireside chat. And it's a free event that I'll be co-hosting with North Carolina Democratic Party Chair Anderson Clayton on Sunday, March 1st, just 2 days before the state's Democratic primary. We'll be joined by North Carolina State Reps Rodney Pierce and Dante Pittman, and also Pastor James Gaillard, candidate for North Carolina State Senate. And fingers crossed, we're hoping to have former Governor Roy Cooper, who's running for U.S. Senate, there as well. It's an open conversation with North Carolina's voters. The event takes place at the World Tabernacle Church in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, Sunday, March 1st from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. To register, go to heartlandsignal.com and click on my picture. That will take you to my show page where you'll find information about the event and a registration link. Or send a text to 773-763-9278 and we'll send you a link so that you can hang out with us. We would love to have you hang out with us if you're down in the area. I'm looking forward to hanging out with Anderson and all the folks in North Carolina when it comes to our event. But right now, we'll take a quick break. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Game day starts before kickoff. Get ready for the big game with help from Menards. Find great deals on sofas and recliners to keep guests comfortable all game long. Score big savings and stock up on game day goodies. Shop a variety of snacks and drinks to keep your party fueled up. Make Menards a part of your game plan. Shop in store or on Menards.com and save big money.
Save big money at Menards.
Here's a tale of Linda trying to lose weight, but the med prices she found were all over the place.
Hidden fees and markups made her jaw drop low. Then she found good RX. Now she's in the know.
GLP-1 subscriptions FDA approved.
With clear upfront pricing.
And same-day pickup.
That's good RX, the no-nonsense way. Save time and money on prescriptions.
Get to goodrx.com/weight loss. GoodRx is not insurance.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty areas of freezing rain here early today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 17. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, high of 26 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 26. Thursday, partial sunshine, high of 31. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 23.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this Monday morning, February 2nd, 2026. Yes, new month. And for those of us in the upper Midwest, we are like, all right, each day gets us closer to spring. And that means more to us than it does if you live in, a southern state or southwestern state or southeastern state. Because it's not as cold, even though they got a little bit of snow and they had to deal with the weather that they're not used to. Every day here, we get closer, one day closer to spring. It's exciting. So one of my other Michigan colleagues and leaders in the great state of Michigan who has made it clear that education is incredibly important and why we've got to do everything we can on all levels to prop up our educational systems and make sure that we are not just teaching, but educating in terms of experience and exposing people to things that are important to their growth. With us this morning is one of those people that's really leaned into that and leaned into it extremely hard. It's the president of the Michigan State Board of Education, Ms. Pamela Pugh. Good morning, Pamela, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT here in Chicago. Uh-oh. Not there? Oh. All right. We'll just keep it moving. I thought she was there with us. She'll be with us in a little bit. But going back to what I was saying about her belief and importance in education, it's 25 years of experience as a public health expert. And when we talk about, I didn't get a chance to talk as much as I wanted to about this last week, but when we talk with Dr. Deb Howery, who was formerly with the CDC, one of the things that she really has been a huge proponent of is the raw importance of educating people when it comes to health. We educate ourselves, we educate on the regular learning items, as we used to say, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and all the things that come after that, the basics, if you will. But one of the things that we have gotten away from, and Dr. Howery talked about this, is educating on healthcare, educating on our health systems. And this is where Pamela Pugh has been really a leading voice there, and making sure that people that are in her sphere, that are in her world, are big proponents of in our educational systems, in our schools, that we don't forget about healthcare, that we don't forget about the importance of public health and advocating for strong environmental justice, because that's all tied into health. And I know that when she does join us, we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's do this, Dev, while we're waiting. Why don't we grab this quick call from Big Art, and when she's on, then we'll grab her. Is that good, guys? Will that work? Okay. Big Art, good morning. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Rich. Happy New Year, and even a better Black History Month. Let's have a good one.
Yep, that's right. That's right. What's going on? What's going on? How you been? And what's happening in your world?
Everything's been okay. I'm just doing my usual hibernation thing because it's been too cold and there's too much snow, and I just can't get around like I used to because I'm not as strong as I used to. But I'm still here. I'm doing okay. My daughter's helping look after me. I got a birthday coming up Thursday.
Wow.
So February is always a good month for me. In fact, I have couple nieces' birthdays there in February too. And friends. February for some reason is a big birthday month for me.
Well, here's the thing on that birthday tip. My late mother-in-law, who passed away 2 years ago, literally 2 years ago this week. Her birthday was yesterday, so we were able to have. She would have made 96.
Wow.
So I know, man, pretty cool. But
I think a while back I counted back like around 9 months. And I believe it's like maybe it's kind of a springtime. 9 months ago, so you know what happens in springtime, right? Yeah. The flowers aren't the only thing that start blossoming. The young ladies, and they start blossoming too and taking off some of them clothes. So looking all pretty.
Come on now.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it clean. All right. I wanted to talk about the Trump Kennedy Center fiasco.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the last time there's been some rehab and some work done at the center, but you better believe they're just trying to save face, because all the people that's been canceling and are not gonna don't even call me to entertain at your thing, this place with your name on it.
Yeah.
So they're gonna go ahead and do a nice little rehab for a couple of years to avoid the embarrassment of everybody telling Trump and his associates, hell no, we won't go. We ain't coming to entertain you or nobody else.
Well, and
it's hilarious.
Yeah, it is, and it's also shameful at the same time. And obviously the people who would be performing there, who've been legendary performers of so many different types of music. We were talking a little bit about music before we came on the air this morning, and to see the arts be turned into this joke and fiasco.
This political football. It's always something theatrical. It's always some kind of TV rating, something stupid when it comes to Trump. It's always about appearances and everything, because the cultural diversity and history of that place is just tremendous.
Yeah.
It really is.
That's the beauty of so much of our art. And I was talking with a friend about this. We still don't fund art and education of the arts across the board as much as we should as a country. But I think a lot of that's because we've got so many folks that don't want to see art be something that is vibrant and energetic and learning.
It's too DE-rich. It's too DE and diversified.
Yeah,
That's why they want to see it. Thank God we have a lot of well-to-do people out there who appreciate the arts and who are very philanthropic.
Yep.
To keep it going.
Without a doubt.
To keep it at least exposed.
Yeah.
Like the Grammys last night was fabulous. It was really good.
Yeah.
I just watched parts of it because I was switching back from that in a basketball game. But but it was just a wonderful thing. It's part of our history. It's part of the positiveness of our history, and it's unfortunately this administration is just displaying the ugliness part of our wonderful democratic experiment here in the United States. We have other ugly parts too, but they just want to highlight. Everything's always got to be some kind of negativity or controversy or some what's the word I'm looking for? Just something that's conflict.
Yeah.
Something adverse. It's always that. It's like don't you have any positivity about you, or your racism and hatred so inbred, it's so deep, you can't even get past it.
Yeah, I know.
You can't even get past it. I'm so glad that gentleman, that little boy and his father are back home in Minneapolis.
Yeah, Liam.
I'm so glad that judge intervened on that and got them back home.
That's the right, humane thing to do, and I'm so glad that exactly you're right, that did take place. Big Art, we got to get going because we got to grab our guest now.
I know you do. I just want to say hello and Happy New Year to you and the whole family there at the radio station.
Thanks, Big Art. We appreciate your call. Stay safe, man. Talk to you soon.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All righty then. Drop that. Do we want to take a? We're good. No, not yet. Okay. Well, that's weird. So there you go. Well, let's take a quick break. Let's go to a quick break. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT AM 820 in Chicago and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina, which is where I'll be hanging out in a couple of weeks. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back. WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the three
I can hear
leading
you.
candidates
I am
for
so
Illinois'
sorry.
open United States Senate seat
And
in the
Dee was
Democratic
on.
primary
Did you
on
see her?
February
She's
6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington
I'll let them know
in
you were
Chicago,
coming
or
shortly,
listen to
putting
the
out a
live
fire in
broadcast.
Orion.
Representative Raja Krishna
Yes,
Murthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and
I had
Illinois
gotten a
Lieutenant
call.
Governor
Was that
Juliana
you who
Stratton will be
called?
discussing their stances on the issues
I'm sorry,
and
that's
making their
Richard?
case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Joan Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street,
Yes,
Chicago,
we're good.
Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130 and Iron Workers Local 63.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chu.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Thanks for being with us this morning. So, as I was saying earlier when we were bringing on Dr. Pamela Pugh, it's so important that we broaden our conversation around education. She's been a real champion when it comes to not just traditional educating, but making sure that we broaden our conversation and we're doing things outside of the classroom. We're making sure that our public health systems are strong. We're making sure that we're aware of the environment and educating people in that space. And I think that's one of the reasons why her role at the Department of Education has been so important to the state of Michigan. So I do want to welcome on our show this morning, Dr. Pamela Pugh. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning. Your background looks great, by the way.
Thank you, and thanks so much for having us. I don't know if it's cold there, but it's a little chilly and a little bit more snow that dusted the ground here in Michigan.
What are you talking about? We're in Chicago. It's always cold here. It's cold in July in Chicago. No, Dr. Pugh, what's interesting is I oftentimes will use Upper Midwest because any of us that are in Illinois,
Absolutely.
any of us that are in, Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Minneapolis, let's just recognize our brothers and sisters up there that are fighting like hell to stay safe, to stay warm, first and foremost, but to stay safe from the craziness that's going on. But it's great to have you with us this morning. I know that you have been a leading voice in the state of Michigan when it comes to education, and now you're deciding to throw your hat in another ring and take on yet another challenge. But take a moment, if you can, Dr. Pugh, and just share with our audience here in Chicago and throughout the rest of the country a little bit about you, your background, and then we'll talk a little bit about your candidacy and what you're working on currently. Does that sound good?
That sounds good. Oh my goodness. Okay, just lots to share. But I'm 55 years old. Just a month or so ago, I've celebrated my 55th birthday. My parents moved us, like many people in Chicago, here in Michigan. My parents moved us up north from Mississippi.
From Newton, Mississippi, by the way.
Yes, I was born in Mississippi. Yep, there's a lot of people from that area in Chicago. And so we moved here when I was a year old, but my parents were very intentional about making sure that we knew our roots. My dad moved here to work at a community college for 36 years. My mom raised my sisters and I at home. She stayed at home. She babysat a lot of the women who for the first time were getting jobs at the community college where my dad worked. She would keep their kids. So that the women were up and coming in their careers. And so my parents became known as matriarch and patriarch of our community here in Saginaw, Michigan, right up above Flint, Michigan. And my mom became a parapro. here in the area. So education was big for us. One of the other things that I learned when I would go to Shibuda, Mississippi, is that my grandfather built a one-room schoolhouse to make sure that his children and his siblings' children had a place to go to school. And so my aunt and my dad would talk about Pugh School, a one-room schoolhouse. So education was big for us. I went to school at the community college that my dad worked at. So community college was a big part of our world. Went on to Florida A&M, where I received my degree in chemical engineering, and came back home and began working here in the chemical world, and then realized that I wanted to do more in the environmental space. So in the environmental space, I have most of my work has been around children's environmental health, looking at childhood lead poisoning and other household and neighborhood factors, risk factors that impact the health and well-being of children. It just so happened that we were dealing with school closures here in our area, as many of our communities do. And these are our community anchors, right? And a lot of that was for the purposes of privatization. We were seeing here in Michigan privatization proliferating at a rate like nowhere else in the country. And we would see school closures. And so I got involved because my dad was involved. My best friend and educator was involved there. And I just happened to be at dinner one day with some women at a Democratic Women's Caucus meeting. And a friend asked, Pam, we need you to run for State Board of Education. And so I ran, and I ran in 2014. It was a time when Republicans swept the top of the ticket.
Yep.
They told me that night, Pam, go to bed. Our governor lost. We lost the gubernatorial race, the Secretary of State race, the AG race.
I remember.
But it so happened that I won and was the highest vote getter. And then I will tell you that over those 8 years, we had COVID, we had the Flint water crisis, which, by the way, I was the chief public health advisor. Somewhere in that time, I was asked to go to Flint at the height of the Flint water crisis and be the chief public health advisor. So we had a lot of issues that were focused on public health. My background was public health, so I feel that it was divine that I was at that table. And during COVID, there were a lot of just angry people on the right that carried that Trump MAGA agenda, who told me that I would never win another election. But in 2022, I ran and won again with over 2 million votes, because here in Michigan, for our state Board of Education seats, we run statewide races. So we run with the ticket. So that's a little unique. So that's a lot in there. And that's my background.
Well, it is a lot, but that's also the beauty of being able to reflect on our body of work. It's a blessing to look back and say, not the best step I made in my life, but here are the good ones, and let's keep forging ahead. And what am I taking in terms of learned experience, and how am I using that to make things better for myself, but also for the people that are around me? And in your case, Dr. Pugh, the people that you serve throughout the state of Michigan. I'm kind of that geeky guy that loves to talk to educators, loves to talk to authors, loves to talk to professors, because like you, we're both blessed to have family that moved to the north, post World War II, getting into the beginning of the civil rights movement, and then be able to get educated. And so I've always had an appreciation for that. And then your sense of this is broader than just what's in the classroom, but also what's external. How are we educating our communities on the things that are going on, making them aware, getting them involved in the process? And you've really been a champion of that. Speak to why that's been so important to you, and then let's talk a little bit about your throwing your hat in the ring for Congress.
Absolutely. So I really have to take it back to my roots and my parents. I didn't have a choice. Like the beauty for me is I didn't have a choice as to whether or not I was going to college. or whether or not, and actually anybody who my parents came in contact with, that was, they treated them. They always had us around politics and really making sure that we understood from the local school board level up to presidential level that we were involved and engaged, and we knew how those policies impacted our everyday life, from how we put food on the table, to just our freedoms in general. So I was involved. I will tell you, I remember just beating the pavement, knocking doors, being involved in elections. But one of the moments that was pivotal for me is my parents made me go to the 1988 DNC, Democratic National Convention, where your beloved Reverend Jackson, our beloved Reverend Jackson, was on the ticket.
Yeah.
And so on the DNC floor. And so that was one, and I did not want to go. I went reluctantly. But from there on, I wanted to go to every DNC I could possibly go to after that experience. But my parents made me go. And so politics has just been woven into our lives, and policy. And you're right. I will say, being public health, having a public health background, we talk about upstream factors. So really understanding that if children aren't well fed and have growling stomachs in the classroom, they can't focus. If children are going to school, not only where they can't be kept warm because they don't have heat in the winter, or they're too hot in the summer because they don't have air, which is a reality for many of our schools, then how do we expect them to have good academic outcomes? And so, I can give you an example. We had children here in Michigan, 7 school children in Detroit, Michigan, who sued the state of Michigan because they didn't have heat in the winter. They didn't have air in the summer. They didn't have teachers in the classroom. They had roaches and mice running around. They had roofs often that were caving in, and they sued the state of Michigan, and my name was listed as a defendant in my capacity as a state Board of Education member. Eventually, I helped those children. I went and sought guidance from Ben Crump, got my own local attorney, and I helped the children to ultimately sue myself. So I was in a plaintiff capacity and a defendant capacity. But these children were able to very clearly articulate that having a government that did not prioritize them was keeping them from being able for the right to literacy. And that right to literacy, their argument was, then keeps them out of being a part of this democracy. How are you able to vote? How are you able to discern, the good candidates from the bad candidates, and be a part of the electoral process? And so that was that right there, and those 7 students were able to clearly show those linkages as well. So just, I would say, being around people who just expected me to do better, whether it was my parents or these young children, and really being able to connect the dots to policy. And so, yes, I am running for state senate now, and here in Michigan, and been able to work around legislation and policy, but wanting to make sure that I'm going to the table at a time when it's needed the most. And I will tell you that we have not had a state senator in our district for over a year.
Wow.
What I know, and many know, is one of the worst political seasons of our lifetime.
That's crazy. And so the broad question is, how is this campaign going, and how are you? What are you learning or gathering from the people that you're talking to while you're out campaigning it?
Yeah. So I'm running for state senate. This is a Senate seat, like I said, that has been without representation for over a year. I go from one of the highest poverty communities in the state to one of the lowest, where I live right here. People are concerned about putting food on the table, being able to have access to health care and not having to decide between do they send their child to the doctor, do they go to the doctor, get medicine, or do they get to eat. Infrastructure is a huge issue. Having access to jobs, high utility costs, which raises that household cost burden. And what we know, what I know, and what we see is a lot of decision makers who are going to the table to prioritize corporations, to prioritize protection of the status quo, protection of power and position, and really focusing on those who are well connected. So what we hear is from everyday working families who want someone who will stand up and stand firm on issues that matter most to everyday people. People are tired of politics as usual, politicians going to look for that next level of job. So our campaign is going well, but I can't tell you it has not been without a lot of twists and turns and lots of surprises, because the type of leadership I bring, I get definitely a lot of pushback from the left and the right, I will say. And pushback is a word I'm using very lightly.
Well, here's the thing that I know that you've learned over the years, as many of us, when there's pushback, that means, I think, a couple things. One, you're getting something done, and the people that are pushing back may oftentimes not like it because they don't want to see change. And change is it's a reality, but for some people, it's just something that they can't handle. So it's good to hear that you are still in the fight. I know our time is short today because we got a little bit of a late start, but your election's this November, is that correct?
My election is on tomorrow.
Your state election is tomorrow? Wow.
My state election is tomorrow. Listen, not only did we go a year without representation, but we have an election that is in the dead of the winter. So we are out knocking doors. We're making phone calls in the dead of winter, and we are praying, we are pushing, we are calling for everyone to get out and vote. And this is a referendum on values that matter to everyday people, whether, we saw it in New York City, to hear progressives are under attack. And we are people who stand on, I'm a Democrat, have been for a while, for a long time. We're standing on principles that Democrats used to stand on before many have moved too far to the right to fill a void. So we are asking everybody to get out and vote, and that's how we push back. It's too dangerous to let out these progressive agendas be sidelined.
Absolutely. Dr. Pamela Pugh, thank you for hanging out with us this morning. We wish you all the success that you deserve in this race. Fingers crossed. And we'll look to have you back after that box has been checked that you won the seat. So let's hopefully see that happen. But thank you for hanging out with us this morning. And we wish you all the success in tomorrow's election.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
All right. Take care now. Let's take a quick break, guys. 773-763-9278 is the number. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu. We'll be right back.
Thank you all for having us. Thank you.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. With the summer finally being here and everyone going on those vacations, let's look at some hotels that support the Democratic Party. Hyatt Hotels. Now, Hyatt Hotels is owned by the Pritzker family. Why does that Pritzker name sound so familiar? Well, that's right, Governor J.B. Pritzker, governor of Illinois. Safe to say that Hyatt Hotels supports the Democratic Party. Choice Hotels. Now, Choice Hotels donated $1.3 million to Democrats in 2024. And if you're wondering, Choice Hotels owns Quality Inn, Sleep Inn, Okono Lodge, and Roadway Inn. Wyndham Hotels. Now, Wyndham Hotels owns Super 8, Days Inn, La Quinita, Ramada, and more. Marriott. Marriott donated $228,000 to Democrats in 2024, and Hilton Hotels donated $241,000 to Democrats in 2024. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
From posters and presentations to labels and loyalty cards, Staples has all the print to boost your brand. Shop now, in-store, and online. Staples. That was easy.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. The U.S. government's partial shutdown is entering its third day, and House Speaker Mike Johnson is facing tough choices. A first test will come this afternoon during a committee meeting when Johnson will need his own GOP majority to advance the federal funding package after Democrats refused to provide the votes for speedy consideration. Johnson said he's hopeful work can wrap up for a full House vote, at least by tomorrow. In an interview, Johnson said it was President Trump who struck a deal with senators to separate out funding for the Department of Homeland Security from a broader package.
The president is leading this. It's his play call to do it this way. He has already conceded that he wants to turn down the volume, so to speak, and make sure this is done in an appropriate way. What a great step it was to put Tom Homan in charge of the situation in Minneapolis and Minnesota. He has 40 years' experience. He's brought a steady hand to the wheel.
Audio courtesy Fox News Sunday. The Department of Homeland Security would be funded temporarily to February 13th, setting up a deadline for Congress to try to find consensus on new restrictions on immigration and customs enforcement operations. Tens of thousands of people gathered in rural Pennsylvania to see Punxsutawney Phil give his annual weather prediction. The groundhog's predictions are pretty straightforward. If he sees a shadow when emerging from his tree stump, it means 6 more weeks of winter. If he doesn't see his shadow, an early spring is on the way. And his prediction was,
"It is my job this February 2 to look to the skies and report back to you that there is a shadow here on my ground. 6 more weeks of winter abound."
Beijing is criticizing the Dalai Lama's first Grammy win, describing the music industry award for an audiobook, narration, and storytelling as, quote, a tool for anti-China political manipulation. This is AP News. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on the reopening of the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt.
Egyptian and Israeli security officials have said that Gaza's Rafah border crossing with Egypt has reopened for limited traffic. An Egyptian official said only 50 Palestinians were allowed to cross in each direction in the first day of the crossing's operation. Although the opening represents a key step following the October 2025 ceasefire, it's a mostly symbolic development on the ground, as few people will be allowed to travel in either direction and no goods will be going into the war-torn territory. Israel's military controls the area between the Rafah crossing and the zone where most Palestinians live. About 20,000 Palestinian children and adults needing medical care hope to leave devastated Gaza via the crossing, according to Gaza health officials. I'm Karen Shamas.
And I'm Marcela Sanchez, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty areas of freezing rain here early today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 17. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, high of 26 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 26. Thursday, partial sunshine, high of 31. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 23.
Horowitz and Associates. Cliff Horowitz's grandfather started this family law firm, and he always said, you know what, if we're going to get full justice for our clients, we have to go to trial. Trial, though, can be very time-consuming. That's why most firms won't go to trial. They just settle for the insurance company's offer. But the Horowitz family spent a century going to trial. They're taking cases to trial now, and they're winning many record-setting verdicts. Cliff Horowitz is a third-generation trial lawyer, getting people the full justice they deserve. Call 312-800-8000 or go to horowitzlaw.com.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Welcome back to Choose Views, guys, and thanks for being with us today. We've been really fortunate to have some really smart people who've been doing certain things for a while. And you guys know how I love industry experts and subject matter experts. And right now, in our media, one of the biggest questions is where do we get our news? Where do we get our information from? Who's really believable? Who's got the best stories and who's telling the truth? There is an organization that has leaned in and been in this business for a while, I think going back to 1999, and that's the Online News Association. It's a nonprofit membership organization that has been a incredible sort of hub or centerpiece for current, cogent, accurate information. With us this morning is the CEO and executive director of that organization, Nikita Patel. Good morning, Ms. Patel, and welcome to Choose Views on WCPT.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, so I'm going to just dive right in and say this. So many people, as I said in your intro, kind of hands up. Where do I turn? What do I listen to? Who do I believe? And that's not that, no pun intended. That's not fake news or fake story. That's a real concern by people right now is where do I go? And so help us understand a couple things. One, kind of your background and also what ONA does and why it's so important to where we are currently in news delivery, news gathering, and believability.
Sure, absolutely. So in terms of my background, I have been in the journalism industry for about 22 years, and I've worked in a myriad of different newsrooms, from sort of like local newspapers, local TV stations, network TV, cable news. I worked for the platform formerly known as Twitter for a while, managing news partnerships there. I did a stint at the 19th. I worked in academia, most recently at Newmark J School at CUNY, and now I'm at the helm of ONA. And so all of my various chapters have been in service of sort of digital journalism, sustainability, thinking really deeply about audience engagement and, of course, innovation. And so I am sort of thrilled to now be leading ONA because I feel like all of my various chapters kind of led me to this. And the reason why ONA is such an essential organization in the journalism landscape is because it really enables folks to up-level their smarts, their skills, have a network, right? To really be able to think of the best way to think of ONA. It's like a companion to your career, no matter what your role is within a newsroom, to be honest. And so our community is so rich and diverse because it's a cross-section of journalists that come from broadcast, public radio, that come from, digital-only sites, newspaper as well. And so it's all changemakers in the industry that really believe in the mission of journalism and how important of a role journalism plays in civic society as well.
It's fascinating. You talk about your ascent and every piece of our lives forms that next, what we like to say is a completed part. But I know I've got to believe that during that period of time, you've watched the industry change in some dramatic ways. And I'm sure ways that, you may have pressed pause and say, I don't know if that's going to be the best thing. And then there's been things that I'm sure that have been like, wow, that is fantastic. So help us sort of see what you notice as things that may not have been the best in your experience, and then things that were frankly pretty good when it comes to journalism. And now that we're in this environment of online journalism.
Absolutely. Yeah. My personal career journey pretty much spans the amount of time that ONA has been in existence, right? And so as you mentioned, the industry has gone through seismic shifts when you think about sort of digital sort of coming into play, you know, when news websites were first being launched and journalists were really being tasked with transforming from just either focusing on print, radio or TV to digital. And so just seeing that, all the technological shifts that our industry has had to undergo for that, as well as then the age of social media, right? That was extremely disruptive. And now we're sort of, you know, well entrenched in the age of sort of AI. And so I like to think that we're sort of coming out of the fear of AI and trying to embrace it, right? Because there are so many lessons that we have learned from the social media age, right? Of sort of like our audiences being extremely sort of bifurcated out there and fragmented. And now, you know, newsrooms and journalists are really trying to sort of engage with audiences and rebuild trust, quite frankly. You know, earlier you mentioned sort of like media literacy. And that, I think, you know, there's a lot of work that organizations like ONA, in partnership with, let's say, Trusting News, or even some of the other affinity groups out there, you know, the National Association of Black Journalists, for example, the Asian American Journalists Association, you know, there's a lot of work that's sort of happening with regards to how we're partnering together and how we're thinking about supporting the industry as a whole, because it behooves us all to ensure that members of our communities understand what sources of journalism and which journalists they can trust, right? And so I'm excited for this work. It's an uphill journey given this current political climate, but it's so important that people understand trusted news sources they can go to and they have access to reliable information.
You feel that your organization is really more of a partnership, maybe even, and these are my words, kind of acts in an advisory role to the overall industry of online news, or how do you see your sort of place? And I don't want to single it as just one thing, but what do you see as that role?
Yeah, I truly believe that the Online News Association is a catalyst, and so, you know, maybe another way to think about the organization is as a hub. And so we basically offer a myriad of training initiatives, programs, you know, events, whether they're in person or online, really in order to bring people together. When people realize they're not alone in some of the challenges that they're facing in terms of wanting to move the industry forward, that is really powerful. So ONA serves as sort of like a connector of folks in the industry that really do care about the future of news and society, quite frankly. And so we're one of many journalism support organizations out there supporting the industry. And we're proud of the fact that we work collectively with these other support organizations, and we work directly with newsrooms and, of course, with journalists as well. So I'd like to say that ONA is kind of the connective tissue that drives the industry forward.
Yeah, I get it. That's and it's interesting to hear that you do, work collectively with other organizations that are out there that are trying to be a partner, a hub, a resource is a word that comes to mind. And with that in mind, one of the things that came up when you were talking about sort of training and resources is age. And so, you know, we could look at someone that's of a certain age chronologically and someone that's of a different age, younger. So we can take the age band of, 70 down to 25. There's some older ways of being a journalist or being in journalism, and then there's some newer ways. And how have you navigated that in a role of a support group or a hub group for the industry at large?
That's such a good question. So our membership, as I mentioned, is sort of very diverse in terms of backgrounds, but also in terms of age. And we love that. We love that our community consists of students, early career professionals, mid-career, and executives. And what's amazing is that folks at all those different stages they're committed to sort of learning and growing, especially those that deeply care about the industry, right? And want us all to continue to sort of thrive. And so I myself embrace change and sort of technology. And I've been so inspired to see a lot of senior members in the industry also understand that, in order to stay in the game, they have to evolve and learn and grow. And so when we have, let's say, ONA's annual convening each year, we have different meetups and, sort of formal gatherings and informal gatherings around the conference. And it's so inspiring to see younger journalists and sort of older journalists, like veterans, if you will, coming together to share best practices and learnings. That to me is a sign of progress. And with some of these more well-established journalists, we're now seeing a lot of them shift to becoming creators in the space, right? And ONA has always been the home of creative journalists. And so I just find it incredibly inspiring that some of these veteran journalists are realizing that the connection they have to their communities far outweighs sort of, the need to kind of, hold on, let me pause. Sorry, if you don't mind, let me collect my thoughts here. What I find really inspiring about some of these veteran journalists who are becoming creator journalists is that they understand the need to be that trusted source in their community. They understand that embracing new technologies and tools will help them ultimately have a better, longer career also, right? Which results in stronger journalism.
And also the believability. It's just another tool. I shouldn't say it's just another tool. It is another tool that allows them to be effective, continue to be trusted. And like we all want to be able to do is just to keep learning. So I have a little bit of a request, a tiny one, I guess. I don't look at myself as a journalist necessarily. I'm blessed to have a really wonderful radio show with a great, phenomenal radio station and team. So I do want to get an invite, and I'm going to raise my hand now, to your next conference or meeting and I got to get on your mailing list, because I'm one of those people that wants to use the tools, the online tools, the social media tools, and all the rest to learn more and to do better at the work that I do with my show. So, Richard's putting a request out to Nikita to say, next time you got something going on, make sure you let me know so I can come there and learn and take notes. So, I really, really, I do mean that.
Thank you. Consider this an open invitation.
Okay.
So ONA is on many platforms, right? So we are very active on LinkedIn, Blue Sky, on Threads, on Instagram and whatnot. And we do have a weekly newsletter that's chock full of updates about various events that we might be doing, about training programs and initiatives that people can join. And we share job listings, which is key right now as there's a lot of movement in the industry. We also have a biweekly conference newsletter as well. And so I'm glad that you mentioned sort of wanting to be a member and an active participant in our community. And with that, I'm very excited that ONA 26 is happening in Chicago, from March 30th to April 1st. And so it's at Hilton Chicago, which, as some of you may know, is a beautiful historic hotel. And we're so excited to convene our community for, 3 days of featured sessions with amazing leaders in the industry. There are many, many workshops that will be happening, lots of panel conversations, meetups, all kinds of things. And so I would love to see you there. So please consider this an open invitation to you and, of course, to all of your listeners as well.
Yeah, I will definitely be there. I wrote it down, and I'm excited about the opportunity. You're listening to Choose Views on WCPT, AM 820 here in Chicago, and WARR 1520 AM and 103.5 FM from Warren County, North Carolina. I'm Richard Chu, and I'm talking with Nikita Patel, who is the CEO and Executive Director of ONA, which is the Online News Association. And I want to ask you this next question, really, as it relates to, I guess it's really what you believe in, and what I mean by that is we've got social media that has driven a different conversation, and it's it's pulled so many people into the conversation about the delivery of information and news and communication. And I learned something at the DNC, the conference, the Democratic National Convention here in the late summer of 2024. What I saw were just so many people who may have been previously on one of the big national networks that went off and did their own thing for whatever reason. You know, Roland Martin comes to mind. He went off and did his own thing. Other people went off to do their own thing by force or by choice. And then I saw other people who were essentially independent. They had a podcast. They had some other form of news delivery there. And it was very eye-opening, and it made me take note that that's the direction that we're headed. And I want to get your thoughts on that in terms of what additional growth do you see happening, and what additional tools do you think we need to make online news and delivery even stronger and better?
Absolutely. I think that's a great observation and a great question. I believe that the news ecosystem needs to be very varied in order to reach audiences in many different places. So I believe there's a place for, digital news sites still. There's a place for news organizations to be engaging with their audiences on various platforms. I also believe that there's a place and a space for these sort of news creators, if you will, right? As you mentioned, Don Lemon comes to mind, Nick Valencia, right? These are amazing journalists doing great work, right? They're independently putting themselves in harm's way to report on the facts of what's happening on the ground in various cities, right? And so some of these journalists have left big institutional newsrooms, right? Which means they don't have the resources and things like that anymore that they used to have. And so I think it's very commendable that some of these journalists are doing this great work for all of us. And so I think all of these combined factors, make the industry more stronger, and then allow for more sources of information for communities to be informed. And so to me, it's all very inspiring. And I believe that, there's a place for sort of institutional media, traditional media, if you will, as well as these forms of new media and creator journalists. They just create a much stronger information ecosystem at such a fractured time, not only in the US, but even around the world as well.
And while you were reading my mind, that was going to be my next question about what do you think? I mean, obviously coverage is global, has been, but it's exploded largely due to, just technology, as we talked about before we came on the air and since we've been on. But this is probably the closest I'll get to putting you on the spot and asking you this question. Do you think that the U.S. gets it better, does it better, or do you think that other parts of the world do it better when it comes to news delivery and that sort of conversation? I've got my opinion, but I want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah, that is a good question. I
didn't mean to put you on the spot too. I want to get your opinion on that.
No. I mean, I love a spicy question. I don't think that the U.S. is doing anything that's better necessarily, because to me, what is more interesting is the state of press freedom here in the US and globally, right? And that is a huge sort of challenge to newsrooms and journalists. And obviously then that's a threat to democracy. And so that is very troubling, right? However, when you do sort of factor in new methods of distribution and technology, I find it really, really inspiring. If you look at what the Nordics are doing in terms of AI, in terms of audience engagement, in terms of news delivery and consumption, like that is really fascinating and really interesting. So I think we should all be sort of like keeping an eye on what they're doing and sort of trying to take some of their best practices and put them into practice. I think that here in the US, I think we're sort of lucky that there are many sort of tech organizations and platforms and things like that based here in the US. But, I think there are lessons to be learned around the world in terms of, technological advances that further news delivery and information, as well as advocating for press freedom. So I know that's a little bit of a nuanced answer to your question, but it's a bit of a tap dance, if you ask me.
Nuance is where the good stuff is, Nikita, because I think it shows that we're thinking about not only the specifics of a question or a conversation, but also in a broader context and how it impacts us. We don't live, as much as, not to be overly political in this statement, but as much as the United States current administration is trying to play this America First game and tighten the reins and eliminate some of the broadness of our country, we see that people are pushing that away. More folks are saying, no, I want to be part of the conversation. I need to be part of the conversation. And some of that's influenced by generation. So, I see so many of the younger creators are far less constrained, not only in what they cover, what they talk about, but how they go about delivering it. So it's nice to hear here in the U.S. and we love our country, but we've got to find ways, I think, to do a better job of communicating the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Exactly. And this is where the role of ONA and other journalism support organizations comes into play, because we're all sort of, highlighting best practices. We are making sure that we're sort of bringing in voices from across the industry, even outside of the industry, and making sure that there are case studies being shared, right, of these sort of ways in which news organizations and journalists are really, really understanding how to better serve their communities. Yeah.
Well, I know that with the amount of information that comes across your desk and that you see, what are some of the things story-wise right now? Do you think that the overall industry, whether it be corporate media, mainstream media, or more of the online podcast outlets what are they might be missing, and what might be some opportunities of stories or categories more broadly to be covering right now? Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. We could get into the sort of nuance of different beats, that journalists cover. But I think one thing that I think a lot of news organizations and even independent journalists kind of sort of need to remember is the mission. Why are we covering stories? What kind of impact do we want to have? And at the center of all of that is humans, right? Mm-hmm. Storytelling exists because of humans. And so I wrote a prediction for Journalism UK that, it's a very short and sweet prediction. I can share it with you afterwards, but it's about centering humans in storytelling, in the audience engagement work, in the news delivery piece of what we do. Because I think sometimes, newsrooms and journalists can be very competitive, and we often sort of, we can forget who we serve, why we serve, and how we serve them. And so that is something that's on my mind going into 2026 is let's remember, the fundamentals of journalism. Let's remember our ethics and sort of the mission of our organizations and why we exist and who we exist for, and those principles, those core principles of journalism and storytelling, in order to really have an impact and to really build trust with our audiences again. And hopefully that will lead to sustainability in the long run as we think about the future and stability of the industry as well.
No matter how we look at it, and it's not meant to be overly sort of esoteric, but ultimately every story, every interview it comes back to humanity. It comes back to conversations about how everything impacts every one of us, no matter if it's a story about the most technologically data-driven conversation or if it's about something that's far more just what would seem to be a regular humanistic story. It still affects us as individuals one way or the other. So I love the way you put that. That's brilliant.
Absolutely, yeah. And to your point, earlier about specific beats, right? What we saw during the pandemic is that that became everybody's beat, right? Even if you were a business reporter, you were covering the pandemic from an economic perspective, let's say. And then, the same thing could be said for social injustice, even climate, right? And approaching these kind of beats, even immigration, the biggest issue of our time right now, right? And especially for Chicagoans, people in Minnesota. I live in Atlanta. We have ice trucks rolling in right now, literally, as well as facing an ice storm. But, I think we really need to remember that, it is the humans in the loop when you think about AI also. Like, there are so many ways in which we need to remember that everything should be centered around humans and informing humans to ultimately make better decisions.
Absolutely. Nikita, thank you for being with us. How can folks find you as we wrap up today? How can they get involved with the organization?
Absolutely, yes. So our website is journalist.org. If you go there, there's a lot of information with regards to upcoming events. As I mentioned, ONA 26 will be in Chicago. We cannot wait. So that is March 30th to April 1st at Hilton Chicago. On our website, people can also sign up for our newsletters. People can follow us on various platforms such as LinkedIn or Threads or Blue Sky. So we try to be in a lot of places where our community already is so that we can engage with them. And we welcome new folks to become members and join our organization because we truly believe in upskilling and upleveling folks. I'm also proud to say that late last year, ONA launched our new strategic plan. And so you'll find information about that on our website, and our strategic plan really revolves around 4 pillars, one of which is industry intelligence and foresight. And so we want to set people up for success in terms of knowing, what the industry is going through now and how newsrooms and journalists can up-level, gain knowledge and ideas as they think about solidifying the future of news and journalism. We also have another pillar focused on continuous learning and adaptive leadership. So ONA also runs a Women's Leadership Accelerator program. We host the Online Journalism Awards every year. Our third pillar is connected communities and networks. And so to your question, we're in all these networks and places where we want to engage with our community. And the last pillar of our new strategic plan is strategic and operational resilience, right? And so I spend a lot of time thinking about ONA's resilience and stability, but also the industries as well and how ONA can have an impact there.
Fascinating. I'm looking forward to meeting you in a few weeks when we get to end of March, early April. I'll make a point of registering and being a part of it for whatever I can attend. But thank you, Nikita, for being with us. Nikita Patel, CEO and Executive Director of ONA, the Online News Association. We really appreciate you being with us on Choose Views this morning.
Absolutely. Thank you so much as well.
All right. Have a great day. Bye-bye now. Hey, Progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Choose Views weekdays 6 to 8 a.m. Central. We're all anxious for the 2026 midterm election to arrive so we can restore some sanity and much-needed oversight to our government. In fact, it's the most important midterm election in American history, and Choose Views will be in the thick of it, bringing you candidate interviews on a regular basis. I'll be talking to Democratic Party hopefuls running for House and Senate at the federal and state level, as well as candidates for governor and other state and local offices.
I am in love with our ability to fight for our rights, to fight for our future, to fight for our freedoms, to fight as our ancestors fought. It's just our moment. This is just our time to stand up and to speak up. We can't give up on this.
If you miss any of the interviews live, you'll be able to find them all on WCPT's candidate interviews page at heartlandsignal.com/candidates. That's Choose Views weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130 and Iron Workers Local 63.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty areas of freezing rain here early today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 17. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, high of 26 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 26. Thursday, partial sunshine, high of 31. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 23.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Views with Richard Chew.
To the show, glad to be back with you. Second hour, last half hour of the show. And Nikita Patel, check her out. The Online News Association is really an organization that I guess right now, particularly when it comes to journalism and any form of media, we need to pay attention to and support those organizations. Endless Urgency, you guys know about the podcast. You talk, and we know about the work that my good friend Mike Nellis has been doing for a long time. But in recent months, his work, his show Endless Urgency, has been extremely powerful for so many people. And I'm going to welcome Mike and say good morning and happy Monday morning. Happy February 2026 to you, my man.
Happy Monday, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. You know, I'm fighting forward like we all are. And obviously there's a bunch of elephants in the room in terms of, since you and I talked, 10 days ago. And it just goes to show how quickly stuff can shift and happen in our lives and impact people that we either know or know of. And we'll get right into dealing with the elephant in the room, or one of the many. And that's what's happened to your good friend, Don Lemon, and 3 other black journalists, by the way, as I said earlier in the show. Having Nikita on, it was an interview that I did last week, talking about media, talking about news. And then here, your good friend gets snatched for what many will say, and based on the evidence, I will say is garbage. But I want to hear what you have to say about how this has impacted you, and if you had a chance to talk with him since he was released, and what do you know at this point that you can talk about, at least that you can talk about, in all fairness.
Sure. Hasn't impacted me personally outside of being very mad for my friend Don, who is someone who's been supportive of me becoming a content creator and a more public figure in this moment. And we have our show Wednesdays on Substack at 11 o'clock that we host. Technically he hosts it. It's the only show I do regularly that he hosts, or that I don't host. But it was an aggressively stupid thing for the Trump administration to do. And I think that a lot of people are trying to figure out why they decided to do it. And I think the why is pretty obvious. Like, one, because they could, and they will use and abuse their power just to show that they can. And I think that's not in no small part why they haven't left Minneapolis yet, even though the politics are all over the wall for how bad that is for them. But they want to prove they can stick around and just exert their power and authority over anybody. But also because, one, Don's a good dude. I want to say that up front because, I've gotten to know him behind the scenes now. I mean, I've known him for 30 years on TV, obviously, but I've gotten to know him over the last year. He's a good dude. But he's one of the fastest growing anti-Trump content creators in the space right now. He's over 1.2 million on YouTube. And it's funny because I do all this right-wing TV, and I was on Leland Bitter's show on News Nation on Friday, and he was like, this is the best thing that ever happened to Don Lemon because he was so irrelevant. And I go, no, he was actually increasingly relevant. Otherwise, there would be no point in doing this. It would just be really stupid. So now he'll be even bigger because of it, but it was dumb. And I think the other thing that's just kind of rattling around in my head is this definition of who's a journalist and who's not a journalist. And the entire MAGA movement is like, Don Lemon isn't a journalist. He's an activist. He's out there. He was participating in this protest, which he wasn't. He live streamed the whole thing. So you can watch everything that he did, which is why 3 separate judges have already tossed this out. But I love this idea, and I say that laughingly, is like that Don Lemon is not a journalist, even though he's been doing it for 30 years, if not more than that. But Jack Probstek, who asks questions at the White House briefing, who is the Pizzagate guy that nearly got people killed at a DC pizza parlor, is a journalist and gets to ask questions of Donald Trump. So maybe this federal government, or really any federal government, should not be deciding who is and isn't a journalist. I don't know, but the whole thing is stupid.
It is, and it's stupid and unnecessary, and so obviously targeted is the word that comes to me. But again, it should show people who are in the center. We know that the folks on the left are going to be on the left, and they're going to be proudly on the left, and you can't tell them anything. We know folks on the right are going to be proudly on the right, and they know everything you can't. We know that. And that's not meant to be a jerk about it. But the folks in the middle who say they like to make their decisions on voting based on some of these nuances and these things that, everybody on the far left or far right doesn't get. Well, the folks in the middle should get this. It was a stupid move. It was a waste. It's clearly a waste of resources, and it was very targeted when we should be focusing on the other stuff that they said, Mike, were the reasons that they voted for Donald Trump, those in the middle that voted for him. This is a waste of all of the things that they put out as why we voted for him. So they should be the ones that pay attention to this and draw back, like you just said. It was a stupid move. It was unnecessary. Who is it going to make better? The people at the church, their lives weren't dramatically impacted. A day of disruption by not Don, but the people who were the disruptors.
Right.
So yeah, and then the other three folks that were also arrested. It's just a bad, stupid move, and it just goes to show how often this administration is making bad, stupid moves. But I wanted to go ahead.
Wait, before we move on, the law that they're using to charge Don Lemon for this is the same law that past administrations, including the Biden administration and the DOJ, have used to prosecute people who have interrupted women trying to get access to abortion care at abortion clinics.
Right.
And Donald Trump pardoned 23 people who were found guilty of violating that law at the beginning of his term. So they don't care about this term. It also covers churches and places of worship. And look, I don't particularly like interrupting people in their place of worship. Like, I'm a practicing Catholic. If somebody did that to me on Sundays, I would be very upset. I don't blame them for being upset. And if the DOJ or local officials go, those protesters broke the law, that's one thing. And by the way, they're protesting, they're breaking the law on purpose, most likely to get attention and to make the point that they want to make. You got to face the consequences of that relative to the law.
That comes with the territory. But go ahead.
Like Don Lemon and these other three journalists were just documenting what was happening. So it's really dumb. And one final thought, sorry, then we can move on. No. The DOJ and the FBI and these other law enforcement offices that Donald Trump is in charge of and has removed any semblance of independence, they should be taking care of the actual bad guys.
Right.
That's what they should be doing. They should be going after drug traffickers and sex traffickers and cyber crimes and white collar crime, which, by the way, the FBI is supposed to be doing a ton of white collar crime. And right now you could basically just defraud anyone in the United States and just get a pardon from the president of the United States. So they're not doing any of that. My dad did anti-terrorism in the FBI. Like, they're not doing that right now. Eventually that's going to catch up because they have them doing dumb stuff like this.
Exactly. And I'm glad you kind of drew down on that. And by comparison, Valentina Gomez, if you recall, went into a church screaming all this vile, disgusting stuff about the LGBTQ community. And they did not, roll up on her and put her in, detain her or certainly not arrest her. So it's clearly a dumb move. It's a targeted move.
Would have been, an absolute meltdown if they'd done that.
Without a doubt. So, yeah, thanks for the reminder. Listen, man, the last time we talked about what was happening in terms of Congress and where the shift might be in terms of the numbers. And, looks like they got something to say down in Texas in terms of now, of course, I just drew a blank on the gentleman's name. We know that Menifee's win is making it a closer. It's narrowing that gap. It's making the midterm numbers even easier, if easier is the right word to use. And then who was it that won the state seat? And I think you posted about this.
His name escapes me because I didn't work it, but I know in Tarrant County, right?
Yeah, that's like I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. But point of it all is the House gap is narrowing even more. And this puts the midterms even more in the spotlight because of the fact that it's not going to take a lot to flip the House. What are your thoughts about Christian Menefee's win there?
Yeah, well, I want to talk about Texas probably more than anything, because I think that's the election that should scare the ever-loving Jesus out of these Republicans. And because if you look at it, there's been 2, maybe 3 elections in the last year. Look, all these special elections, they're swinging hard towards the Democrats. We're flipping all these Republican seats. But special elections and off-year elections are hard to quantify,
right?
In the sense of, how do I compare it to 2024 when it's a fraction of the turnout? But in Tarrant County, in this special election in Texas, the turnout was midterm levels. And the C was angry that day, folks. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, Republicans turned against the Republican candidate, independents turning against the Republican candidate. Guy had Trump's endorsement. So it's like
Taylor Remmett. That's who it was.
Taylor Remmett. Thank you.
Thank you.
But the Republican had Trump's endorsement. Trump posted about it the next day. And by the way, then he lost. And then Trump was like, I don't know anything about that. Well, Texas? Never heard of her. And it's amazing how fast that happens. But that should scare them, because that's how mad people are. And then factor on top of that, Trump is so underwater. He's clearly dragging every single one of these guys down, and they can't get away from him until after primary season, because they can't afford to lose their primaries, because there's a MAGA candidate in every pot right now.
Yep.
And it's really just unbelievable. And then just the one final thought, they decided to do mid-district gerrymandering all across the country. And they were like, we're going to rig the midterms and we're going to do gerrymandering. Democrats responded so effectively to this. I can't curse on your show. I'm sorry. I really want to. This BS. Okay. Democrats responded so good that we picked up a seat just assuming the 2024 numbers.
Right.
And now everything's 8 to 10 points worse. And there's a bunch of Republican political operatives leaking to Politico going, we may have killed ourselves by creating all of these R+6 districts in Texas. And I'm like, yeah, you may have. Like, Democrats carved out 1 seat in California to give the Republicans after the gerrymandering. There was a poll this week that has the Democrat up in that district. That's how bad it is right now. And I, for one, think it couldn't happen to a more deserving group of people on the planet. So.
Well, Mike, you and I have talked about this on a number of occasions, and I think that this is what allows good thinking people to be able to move things forward. We know that we've got work to do in the Democratic Party. That's kind of it's sort of like the sports analogy that I've used. You don't win the Super Bowl, but that doesn't mean that you're not a good team. That doesn't mean that you don't have things to work on. You come back and fight harder the next time. And yes, it's politics and it's policy and it's all the things that affect our lives. Sports really doesn't. But the analogy is one that I use because it's about looking at where you have blind spots that you can work on to do better. And let's be honest, the Democratic Party has done that. I mean, there's been lots of lessons learned since the 2024 national election. And it's proving itself with some of these special elections and all the rest. But it's also taking the Democrats out of the equation for a second and just looking purely at what the Republicans have not done or have not gotten done or caused or stood by and watched happen. That's got a lot of people who were sitting on the sidelines back in the mix. And I haven't seen qualified data to say that Republicans who were and are in the mix have moved to the center. I mean, that to me is the biggest part of this that not enough people are talking about, is the amount of Republicans that are saying with their vote that this really isn't what I voted for. It may have been what I voted for, but it's not what I want or what I like right now. What's been your take on that piece right there?
I think that there are a lot of Republicans and then Republican aligned independents, right? Because keep in mind, the biggest block of voters in the country is independents. Part of the
And that's what I meant by the folks in the middle. So let me clean that up a little bit. But go ahead.
But I think that a lot of people are coming to terms that this isn't what they voted for. And even if it was, it's not what they want. And I think the images on immigration in particular have just, look, Alex Preddy was murdered and Renee Good was murdered. And actually, if I should say Alex Preddy was executed, Renee Good was murdered. They're two different things, believe it or not. But, they were horrific. And I think that's moved people just completely off of that issue. The economy is a disaster. The job market is horrible. Trump can't even acknowledge that it's a problem right now. Wages are stagnant and people are angry. And on top of it, Donald Trump's increased his net worth by $4 billion, according to one of the estimates from yesterday. I forget which one. It might have been the New York Times again.
I think it was. Yeah.
I mean, it's just people are upset. Now, I think for Republicans, who have really in the last 10 years become isolated from their families and their friends who are not Trump oriented. And a lot of people aren't going to like this. You're going to have to create an on-ramp for those folks to come back to reality. And I'm sorry to the people who I'm putting that pressure on, but like you need that. And if you don't believe me, go watch. SNL had what I thought was a pretty good sketch this weekend about a Trump mom that had brought the family for dinner. And she was trying to tell her kids that she was like, I think Trump might be bad. And I think Trump might have lied to me. And I'm upset about it. And the kids were like freaking out, not giving her the space for it or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that's what you have to do. And I'm sorry to everyone who has to go call your MAGA mom and make it right. But they need that right now because otherwise they get isolated on an island and then Trump is the only one talking to them. So, and I have 2 Trump parents. My dad voted for Trump all 3 times. Even he's basically done. Now, I don't know that he's going to vote Democrat. Maybe he'll stay home. And I guess I would take that over voting for Trump. But like,
unless the numbers are down, that's the challenge. When the numbers are down, then, I mean, the math on it, then that's when that becomes a challenge when folks stay home. But
right.
The SNL piece you're talking about, it's fabulous work on their part once again. And
I thought it was hilarious. And by the way, they're making fun of like people like me too.
I know.
So I posted it, and some MAGA guy on the internet was like, they're making fun of you, and I'd be like, yeah, that's why I like it.
That's why I like it.
I like when they parody both of us because like we are sometimes kind of like self-righteous jerks about being right. We are right, but I take an unapologetic approach as best I can in this space because it's not so much about being right, but it's more about having the discussion. The thing that I want people to do is have the conversations. And I know that we're going to be not wrong, but we're going to miss the mark on certain things because we're just at the pace that we're going with all this information and overload, we're going to get some stuff wrong, and all that. But I just want people to be talking about it because a big part of the problem for the longest time, Mike, and you've been doing this for a long time. I have been in my way for a long time, but I've been talking about it since I was a teenager. And if there's anything that I've learned, and this is what Dr. Pugh, who was on earlier in the show, talked about, is that we have to have these conversations. So it leads back to what you were saying about how do we do like my friend Rich Logis, who, by the way, I don't know if you've had him on your show or not, but he's someone that I think would be a good guest to be on Endless Urgency. He's the guy that put together and founder of the group Leaving MAGA. And he talks about the fact that the first thing that he does is try to find a way to have a conversation with people who've been part of MAGA and help them try to find a way home. How do they get back? How do we get them back to the Thanksgiving table? So I think that's important that the conversations be had right now, because otherwise people will stay at home because they'll just be like, whatever, I don't care. It's not really impacting me. Well, I think, and I just add a couple of things here. Like one of my life mottos is, how do I know what I believe in if I don't talk to somebody who disagrees with me every now and again? Like I just
get challenged in that space. Yeah.
Exactly. Like I'm a sharper communicator because I argue with Leland Vittert every Friday night on News Nation, who I don't agree with on a lot. But I like the guy, and I treat him with respect, and he treats me with respect. And I did Batya's show Saturday night, and she's, to the right of, whatever. I'm not going to finish that sentence, but like, I just think you're better off in that environment. But I think one of the worst things the left did in the wake of 2016. And I'm going to say this up front. If you have a toxic relationship with a relative that is like harmful to you, like, remove that person, do whatever you think is for you. I've had that with my dad. I had to go a long time where I didn't talk to him, not because of Trump stuff, but like personal stuff. But I go home for Thanksgiving and I'm going to have an argument with my dad every now and again. And like, that's okay. I think you need if we leave people to become untethered from, like, I hate to say reality because they're experiencing their own reality too.
Right.
But it's just you become worse off and isolated and they become worse off and isolated. And the only people who win in that environment are politicians that want us at each other's throats, who want us to hate each other, and then billionaires who design algorithms on social media that incentivize us to hate each other and to be put in our own little bubbles and think that it's real. And part of the reason that Republicans right now can't understand that the execution of Alex Preddy, which was 8 days ago, it's an 80-20 issue, but they're all trapped on Twitter. So they think they can justify their way out of it when the average American is like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, why are we allowing the federal government to just murder people on the streets? Like, they can't get out of it. So it's bad for everybody. And I think that happened in 2023 and 2024 too.
Yeah, good point. So I got to ask you this question about Ilhan Omar and that situation, and when you saw it, what your thoughts were, and since then, how you've kind of picked up on the conversation around what happened to her, but also what I think is pretty marvelous, and that was her initial response, and then staying the course through the course to complete that town hall.
Yeah, I've worked for Ilhan before. She's a certified. Oh man, I can't use the word.
Badass.
Yeah, can I say that?
Yeah, I said it a dozen times last week because she's a certified badass. There you go.
Just imagine somebody. Anytime I'm on, there's somebody with their hand over the button.
That's true. That's still true.
Now, if she worked for me and I had seen that video, I would have sent her two things. I would have said, one, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen, because for folks that don't know, she got something strange thrown at her and a guy yelled at her, and thank God that's all that it was. It seems like the substance was harmless. And then her reaction was to run towards the guy, which, so if I had texted her, it would have been like, one, that was amazing. Two, don't ever do that again, and that's because that would be my answer. Like, don't do that again. Like, let security handle it. But it was pretty great. And, you could, there's lots of things that people don't like about Ilhan on the left, on the right, like whatever, but like she fights and claws and scratches, and she's faced unbelievable amount of attacks from Donald Trump. Trump attacked her earlier that day in his speech in Iowa, where he was supposed to be hawking the economy, but he was unable to talk about the economy at all. He just had to talk about everything else because I think he can't see the teleprompter. That's my new conspiracy theory, is that he can't see the teleprompter anymore because he's so old and they don't know. And he's too ashamed to admit that he can't see the teleprompter. So he's just like,
so just makes
stuff
up.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in a very I don't know. I feel like I'm being a goof today.
No, but see, listen, that's part of what we have to do. We have to find some element of levity in this, because I think what that comes back to is a word that you and I both haven't used, but we both believe in, and that's commonality. And so with Representative Omar, what I thought was one of the big takeaways from that is fighting, running toward, as you used the words. I think that right now, if there is a lesson or a tool of motivation about how we keep getting stuff done, is to take a page out of what she did in that moment. She ran toward the problem to try to fix and resolve the problem. I mean, I'm adding some eloquence to it, but she was ready to throw down with the dude. But I think we have to, if we believe in the things that we talk about. I'm not saying you and me, but if us as a collective party and movement believe in it, then we got to run to it. And that's kind of what I took away from it is, we know she's a badass, and she proved it in the moment. Nobody had to push her. She just like ready to go. So I'm hoping that that's what a lot of people can take away from this. Mike, man, we're going to get it done. Where it's going to be you and me for an hour. We'll figure it out sooner than later, but I'm glad you can.
Come in person. I'll get out of bed and come in person.
All right, we'll do that. Listen, brother, be safe. Thanks for all you do. Stay strong this week, and we'll talk with you soon, okay?
Sounds good. Thanks,
all right,
Mike.
you
Bye.
too. All right, guys. The number, of course, we know is 773-763-9278. This has been Choose Views here on WCPT in Chicago. Stay tuned for the Stephanie Miller Show, and take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is Tony Moret. I'm an estate planning attorney who drafts living trusts and wills for my clients. You have probably heard my ads here on WCPT for the last few years. Your fellow listeners, when we have completed their plans, say, I wish I had done this sooner. It wasn't nearly as hard as I thought it would be. We can complete your estate plan within 30 days or less. There are certainly decisions that need to be made, but my 30-plus years of experience will help guide you through this process. There may never be a perfect time to start, but whenever I'm asked when is the best time, my answer is always the same. Now is the best time, while it is on your mind. Being able to tell your family that you have an estate plan in place, that all the details have been taken care of, will be a great relief to both yourself and those you care for the most. Our initial consultation is without charge, and there is no obligation. My phone number is 847-996-0496, and my website is moretlawoffice.com, spelled M-O-R-E-E. I look forward to speaking with you.
Winter in Chicago hits hard. Is your home ready to stay warm and energy efficient? At Green Attic, they help you fight back against the cold. They're Chicagoland's trusted experts in attic insulation, spray foam, crawl space encapsulation, and mold remediation, solutions that lock in warmth and cut your heating bills. If your upstairs feels freezing or your furnace never stops running, your attic might be the culprit. Their team seals in comfort and stops energy waste at the source. Need roofing? Their sister company, Green Attic Roofing, offers asphalt, flat, premium roofs, and even Tesla solar roofs, all backed by a 10-year labor warranty and instant online quotes. Winter storms don't wait. Replace that aging roof now and protect your investment. With over 15 years of experience and more than 1,000 five-star reviews, Green Attic delivers real comfort, real savings, season after season. Visit greenattic.com for a free insulation consultation or go to greenatticroofing.com for your instant roofing estimate. Green Attic, healthy home, happy family.
File your taxes for free with TurboTax and Intuit Credit Karma. Just file on your own in the Credit Karma app by February 28th. Valid for those who didn't file with TurboTax last year.
AP News, I'm Marcela Sanchez. House Speaker Mike Johnson faces tough days ahead as the partial government shutdown continues and the debate over the Trump administration's sweeping immigration enforcement operations intensifies. Johnson signaled he's relying on help from President Trump to ensure passage. Trump struck a deal with senators to separate funding for the Department of Homeland Security from a broader package after public outrage over 2 shooting deaths during protests in Minneapolis against immigration and customs enforcement. AP correspondent Karen Shamas reports on relations between the European Union and Iran following the bloc's listing of Iran's paramilitary guard as a terror group.
Iran says it has summoned all the European Union ambassadors in the country to protest the recent listing of its paramilitary Revolutionary Guard as a terror group by the 27-nation bloc. Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesman Esmail Baghaei told journalists on Monday that the ambassadors had been summoned the previous day. The European Union decided in January to list the Guard as a terror group for its part in a bloody crackdown on recent nationwide protests in the country. While the move is largely symbolic, it does add to the economic pressure squeezing Iran, particularly as the Guard has a major influence on the country's economy. I'm Karen Shamas.
Bad Bunny won Album of the Year at the 2026 Grammy Awards for his critically acclaimed Debí Tirar Más Fotos.
I want to dedicate this award to all the people that had to leave their homeland, their country to follow their dreams.
Audio courtesy CBS Recording Academy. It's the first time a Spanish-language album has taken home the top prize. More information at apnews.com. This is AP News.
AP Sports, I'm Gethin Coolbaugh. 22-year-old Carlos Alcaraz became the youngest man to claim all 4 Grand Slam events after beating Novak Djokovic to win the Australian Open final.
I'm really happy that I just pushed myself to be better.
Elena Rybakina won her first Australian Open. NFL, the Raiders were nearing an agreement with Seahawks OC Clint Kubiak, and the Cardinals hired Mike LaFleur as coach. LeBron James was selected to his 22nd consecutive NBA All-Star game. 76ers star Paul George was suspended 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug policy. NHL, the Lightning rallied from 4 goals down to beat the Bruins 6-5 in a shootout in the Stadium Series. Justin Rose broke the Farmers Insurance Open scoring record as the first wire-to-wire winner at Torrey Pines since 1955. And MLB, the Reds signed Eugenio Suarez. Gethin Coolbaugh, AP Sports.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see a few spotty areas of freezing rain here early today, otherwise cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the northwest around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tonight, a slight chance for some snow here late, cloudy, a low near 17. By Tuesday, mostly sunny, high of 26 degrees. Wednesday, plenty of blue skies and sun, high of 26. Thursday, partial sunshine, high of 31. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 23.
This is Chicago's Progressive Talk, 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and online at WCPT820.com, where facts matter.
If you're looking to purchase a home after a divorce, you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Today, meet Charlie, field technician, income $100,000 a year, had an amicable divorce from his wife. Charlie wanted to purchase a home while he was in the middle of a Chapter 13 bankruptcy to be close to his 3 kids, so he called Team Hochberg for a free consultation. Great move. Team Hochberg loan officer John Hendrickson answered Charlie's questions, secured a bankruptcy court approval so Charlie could purchase a new home to be close to his 3 kids. Let's review. Team Hochberg loan officer Johnny Hendrickson helped Charlie purchase a new home after his divorce while in the middle of a bankruptcy so he could be close to his 3 kids. Team Hochberg's helped thousands of listeners, but we can't help if you don't call 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit that website you know and love, 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, and MLS 112-4061.
WCPT 820 will be hosting a candidate forum for the 3 leading candidates for Illinois' open United States Senate seat in the Democratic primary on February 6th.
Please join us at the Plumbers Hall at 1340 West Washington in Chicago, or listen to the live broadcast.
Representative Raja Krishnamurthy, Representative Robin Kelly, and Illinois Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton will be discussing their stances on the issues and making their case for your vote.
WCPT hosts Patty Vasquez, Richard Chu, and of course Jonas Esposito will be moderating the forum.
To attend in person, go to heartlandsignal.com/WCPT820 and register. We'll have limited seats available, so please register early.
Meet the leading Senate Democratic candidates at a free WCPT Live Candidate Forum at Plumbers Union Hall, Local 130 on Washington Street in Chicago, Friday, February 6th.
The forum starts at 1 p.m. and is sponsored by Plumbers Union Local 130 and Iron Workers Local 63.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.